Hello. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Mythos Machine and how I'm using it to create worlds for the Mythos Machine marketplace. Now, I've created a world that is called The Way of All Flesh, Episode 1, and it's a science fiction campaign. And it has a lot of things in it, and those things are represented by these buttons. Each one leads to a screen that allows me to create new things or modify existing things, for example, armors. So if I wanted to modify this armor, then I would go through and I'd set its attributes and its description and so on. And there are things of all sorts. So there's stores, there's armors, weapons, equipment, skills, mystic powers, books for both of them that allow me to kind of put them in categories like, for assigning to classes and races. There's also cultures, races, and classes, and so on. So now that I've built out this world pretty well, I want to go and check and see whether or not I missed anything. I mean, there's a lot of combinations that are possible. So I want to take a look and see before I go ahead and package up the world and present it to the public. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to World Info, and I'm going to select a report that's called World Thing Holes. Now what this does is this allows me to select either by race within the world, so I can pick a specific race, or I can pick all races, or by class. So I've created these races and these classes that get cross-associated between each other. For example, I have a class that's a fighter class. Well, only humans and Martians and races of that sort are fighters, so they would be able to get the fighter class as an option for them. Cybernauts can be either humans or Martians or whatever, or maybe just humans. So what it allows me to do is create races and then classes and associate which classes are available to which races. Anyway, what I want to do is review my setup. Now what I could do is I could run it against all and then click the run report. Now this will take a little while for it to accumulate all that data. So you're going to see a pretty large report. Now I usually wouldn't want to look at the entire thing this way because it's just going to be a lot of information. But on the other hand, maybe I want to go down and scan the things that are most important to me. And that way I can maybe drill down, with a little more detail, once I've given it a general scan. So here I see all of the race combinations and class combinations in my world. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. I mean, it's not like infinite, but there's a lot. So that's because I have a large number of races and classes to choose from. So let me drill down on races, and I'll pick one in particular. Let's say the Android LX1. So this is a more manageable size, and what I can do is I can go through each of these and just kind of review them going down, or at least the ones that are most important to me. Although if I'm going to put a world in the marketplace, I probably want to go through everything and just make sure that I have a tidy set. So what I'm seeing here is this is a race, and the race is the Android LX1. And the thing type that I'm looking at on this line is armor. So the LX1 does not come with a default armor. However, that's actually possibly something that I want to fix. Maybe I do want the LX1 to have an armor. So I might go over to Edit Armor and take a look down my armors. And here I find the metallic Android skin. Okay, so I select it, and then I select Show Additional Item Options, and I look and see, okay, so the LX1 agent has the armor associated to it, and the LX1 looks like it should be picking up that armor. So let me go back to the report. Run it again. Now, this is a kind of interesting point about this, and something that, you need to understand. So I'm looking at the race, and it's the LX1 race. Now, that race does not have an armor. Okay. But if I go to classes, and I pick the class for LX1 agent, and I run this report, okay, now the class has armor. It's got a armored bodysuit 2 and metallic android skin. So here's the rub. And this is where I made a mistake, and that's why this report is helpful to me. So the LX1 agent as a class probably should get the armored bodysuit, because you can have an android and it's not of this one class. It could be a different class of LX1 android. Might not be an agent. But they're all LX1s ought to get the body armor, the metallic android skin. So in that case, what I want to do is I'm going to go and edit this armor, and I'm going to go in, and I'm going to say, you know what, though, this armor really shouldn't be associated. This is the metallic android skin. It shouldn't be associated to the classes. Okay, it should be associated to the race. Okay, so I am now going to go, and I think what I'll do is I'll go to administration, I'll go to things, and I'm going to go to races, and I'm going to go to the LX1, which is the first one, and I'm going to go here, and from here in the race, I can associate a race to different things rather than the class. And I could do both, but it's better to keep them separate. Okay, and so now I'm going to pick the non-natural, so non-natural items, and what I'm going to see is the metallic android skin. It's not natural because it's artificially created, so it doesn't show up in the natural only because it has a tech level. Okay, so now I'm going to just review the weapons. Now these are non-combat androids, so they actually don't get a weapon. So now when I go back to my world info and I go look at my report on thing holes, and I pick race, and I go Android LX1. So now I'm going to see, okay, so it has a body armor because it's the race of the android. And it doesn't have mystic powers. Okay, now I'm going to look down at the skills. Okay, now this shows me I'm looking at skill, book, and then skills. So there can be, let's say you have 10 skills in your world, and you have 3 skill books. You could overlap some skills in each book if you wanted to, and have other skills that are distinguished. And you can organize it any way you want because it's your world and whatever makes sense to you. So in this case, I have a skill book that's called Android LX1 Skills. And I've added a whole bunch of skills to that book. And this report allows me to actually also review the LX1 skills book and see if all the skills in it make sense. So I noticed that I added a certain set of specific Android skills because there's language translation for androids, but there's also language translation for other races that are not android races, and they work a little bit differently than the android version, and those go into the Android LX1 skills. So it's got this, it's got advanced recognition, pattern recognition for androids, and so on. Okay, and then weapon. Now I know that this LX1 is a non-combat unit, therefore it doesn't have a weapon, and that's fine. And it doesn't have mystic powers, and that's fine. So okay, good. So I'm good with this, and now I can go on to my next one. So this is the XL1, which is a different type of android. And this one comes in with, now remember, I'm looking at race here. So the race has body armor, fast reflexes, and it also has android metallic skin. So that makes sense. Okay, and I look down the skill book. Now you can see that the LX1 skills are different than the XL1 skills. The XL1 has a much larger set of skills, and it also comes with a weapon which is called the Android Fist. And so I would go through, as a review, all of my different races, and then what I can do is I can go through my different classes and check those out as well. So I have an animal class, for example, and these are the skills that get associated to any animal. So animals get acrobatics and climbing, detect presence, dirty fighting, hiding in shadows, hunting, moving silently, and so on. Now, I could refine this a little bit because not all animals will necessarily have these skills, and some skills that some animals might have might not be included in this list. So, for example, deer do not hunt, but they do hide in shadows, and so on. They certainly don't do dirty fighting, but some animals do, So what I could do if I wanted to get down to that level of detail is I could create 2 books, one for fighting animals and the other for herbivores. So I could have one for predators and one for herbivores, let's say, and then distinguish it that way. In this case, I'm not going to bother because I think that level of detail is just not necessary for this world, or at least not at the moment. Or let's say that I, as the creator of this world, decided, yeah, okay, it's okay for these combinations to exist for animals. The way games masters are going to use this is probably acceptable. So I might conclude that. Anyway, and then at any point in this process, I might want to look at the entire list and just kind of scan down it, the whole thing, and I can do that. And of course, it does take a little while for it to run, but it's a lot of data, so that's why. Anyway, but what you can see from this is how I am using the Mythos Machine and this report in particular to create coherent worlds where I can review things with relative ease. I can make sure that things work, that they make sense. I can go in from this report and edit things directly and fix things up and get my world just so. And that really, for me, is a real win. Without the report, it's you can see how many things there are, so you can imagine if I had to poke through each thing and check individually and go through, let's say, the Mantarian scientist and check all of their things. Without this report, that would be a little more labor intensive, so the report definitely helps save time. Anyway, that's it for today, and that's part of what the Mythos Machine does. It's a great thing. I am using it for my own games, and I have people who are using it for their games, and I hope you'll give it a try and see if you like it. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread as far as role-playing games are concerned. All right, well, thanks a lot, and appreciate you listening, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye-bye.